which was then lauded by the government. We were doing the right thing and brought those prosecutions. So my record was going after where I thought something had gone wrong and putting it right. She stayed silent.
Just in Britain is staggering tonight as a colossal £22 billion fraud scandal explodes onto national television. The disclosure has sent tremors through Westminster, rattling the foundations of the Labour Party and fueling relentless demands for Keir Starmer to step down. This is no trivial dispute, no ordinary political headline. It is a crisis of immense proportions that could alter the entire trajectory of British politics. The question on every mind: how could billions allocated for the public good simply evaporate? And even more pressing, what did Labour's leadership truly know? The storm broke live during a primetime broadcast when a whistleblower voice quivering, yet evidence irrefutable, exposed a web of deceit that left the nation in disbelief. £22 billion vanished or diverted, siphoned through dubious contracts, front companies, and falsified records that slipped past oversight for years. It was not an accident, not an oversight. This was orchestrated. It was intentional, a betrayal of confidence on a scale Britain has rarely endured. At the very heart of the tempest now stands Keir Starmer, Labour's chief, accused of ignoring warnings or burying them to safeguard his future. The silence following the broadcast was overwhelming. Across the country, living rooms froze as families tried to grasp the enormity of what they had just seen. Online, outrage was instant and ferocious. Hashtags urging resignation surged within minutes. Petitions drew thousands of names before the program had even concluded. Rivals seized upon the disclosures immediately, casting Labour as a movement tainted by dishonesty and decay. The Conservatives, sensing advantage, declared this scandal definitive proof that Labour was incapable of governing. Most startling of all, within Labour itself, loyalty began to fracture. MPs once fiercely devoted to Starmer now whispered of treachery and demanded consequences. Fearing for their own survival, the revelations laid bare by the whistleblower are chilling. Enormous sums intended to revive the economy after crisis were funneled into empty shell firms, bloated invoices crafted to bleed the treasury, and contracts granted under emergency pretenses that became nothing more than golden tickets for insiders to enrich themselves. This was no accident. It was exploitation of a system already stretched to breaking point. While millions of ordinary Britons wrestled with soaring bills, collapsing services, and shrinking opportunities, billions of their pounds vanished into the dark, unreachable, untraceable, gone. And the accusations aim not only at nameless officials or faceless businessmen, they climb upward into the core of Labour's leadership. Papers leaked with the broadcast indicate Starmer was repeatedly alerted to irregularities. Meetings took place. Concerns were voiced. Yet according to insiders, the alarms were ignored. Starmer detractors claim either lacked the resolve to confront corruption inside his party or chose silence to preserve his image as reliable and electable. Either choice, the fallout is devastating. Labour is no longer grappling with a political challenge. It is staring into an existential abyss. As dawn rises after the broadcast, Britain stands at a fork in the road. Calls for Starmer's resignation are no longer murmurs but thunderous roars echoing from town halls to Parliament. Demonstrations erupt across major cities. Commentators now label this one of the bleakest chapters in modern British politics. The very essence of leadership is under siege. Can a man who allowed £22 billion to disappear under his watch credibly aspire to lead the nation? Or is this the moment that ends Keir Starmer's political life for good? The answer remains unknown, but one truth is undeniable. The scandal has unleashed a storm that will not fade quietly. As revelations ripple outward, public anger swells hour by hour. In the streets of London, Manchester, Birmingham, and beyond, crowds gather in rage. Placards demand accountability. Voices cry for justice for families already pushed to the brink by the cost of living crisis. The belief that £22 billion of their money has been funneled into the hands of the powerful feels like the ultimate betrayal. How can we trust anyone again? One protester shouts into a camera, voice trembling with fury. That cry reverberates across the nation. Trust, already fragile, lies broken. Inside Westminster, the mood crackles with panic. Emergency sessions convene behind locked doors. Advisors huddle in dim offices, scrambling to draft responses that sound strong, decisive, reassuring. Yet the truth is impossible to bury. The scandal is too vast, too shocking, too raw. Even the most carefully scripted words ring hollow beside the evidence already revealed. Every pause, every silence, every delay from Starmer himself only deepens suspicion. The question is no longer if he will answer, but whether anything he says could possibly save him. Meanwhile, the opposition seizes its opening. The Conservatives waste no time portraying Labour as rotten to its core, declaring the scandal proof of systemic rot. This, they insist, is not just about one man. This is about a party that has failed its people. Smaller factions join the chorus, each vying to seize the mantle of honesty and integrity. They demand swift inquiries, full-scale investigations, prosecutions if required. Platform UK and others called this the ultimate reckoning for a political class that long ago lost touch with those it claimed to serve. But what makes the scandal especially explosive is not just the fraud itself, it is how long it was allowed to rot. Leaked papers and insider testimony revealed that alarms were raised years earlier. Auditors flagged irregularities, whistleblowers, it spoke out. Yet time after time warnings were buried, dismissed, or ignored. How could something so vast slip past oversight for so long? How could billions drain from public coffers into shell firms without setting off alarms? Critics now contend this was not only failure, it was collusion. Regulators were starved of funds, watchdogs muted, and political leaders looked away. The system, it seems, was built to shield itself. And now Keir Starmer stands at the very center of the storm. His leadership, once labeled cautious, measured, even dull, has overnight become something else entirely. Embattled, cornered, fragile, the pressure is relentless. Demands for resignation come not just from opponents but from inside his own ranks. MPs who once pledged loyalty now release carefully crafted statements pressing for transparency and accountability. In politics, such words are code. They mean the knives are out. They mean trust is slipping. They mean betrayal has begun from within. Outside Westminster, public anger burns hotter still. On social platforms, the scandal consumes every feed. Hashtags urging resignation trend worldwide. Petitions soar into the hundreds of thousands. Grassroots activists mobilize rallies and marches at breakneck speed. Clips of the whistleblower's testimony are replayed millions of times, dissected frame by citizens desperate to understand how their futures were gambled away. Every replay deepens fury. Every comment piles on pressure. This is not merely a political scandal. It is a cultural flashpoint, reshaping how people see their leaders. And still the damning questions linger. Did Starmer know? Did he ignore the warnings? Was he deceived or was he complicit? Each possibility is ruinous. If he knew and stayed silent, he betrayed the nation. If he was deceived, he is incompetent, unfit to govern. Either way, the verdict is the same. Leadership has failed. And in the court of public opinion, failure is unforgivable when the price is £22 billion and the betrayal of millions of ordinary citizens. As Section 2 closes, the tension is unbearable. The scandal is no longer about financial misconduct. It has become a fight for survival. The Labour Party is fracturing. The political establishment stands under siege, and Keir Starmer's future hangs by a thread. The question is no longer whether he can withstand the storm, it is how long before it consumes him entirely. Inside Westminster's corridors, the fallout grows more poisonous by the day. What began as a single broadcast has spiraled into a full-scale crisis engulfing every corner of British politics. Emergency sessions convene in Parliament. Journalists swarm outside Labour headquarters, hurling questions no one dares answer. The nation watches as a once disciplined party unravels live, its unity shattered, its future in doubt. Labour, long intent on presenting itself as the party of integrity and competence, is instead consumed by suspicion, betrayal, and open revolt. For Keir Starmer, the strain is crushing. Every appearance, every phrase, every gesture is dissected and judged. When he finally speaks, his tone is cautious, deliberate, too cautious for a public demanding fury and accountability. He pledges full cooperation with investigators, vows that no stone will be left unturned, and insists those responsible will face justice. But the words fall flat. They sound less like leadership and more like survival, and survival may no longer suffice. Critics accuse him of dodging responsibility, hiding behind procedure instead of confronting the truth. Enemies, both within and outside the party, sense vulnerability and circle closer. Leaks reveal a movement in chaos. Senior MPs split down the middle. Some demand Starmer's immediate resignation, urging sacrifice to preserve what remains of Labour's credibility. Others plead for unity, fearing his removal now would trigger an even deeper collapse. Private WhatsApp exchanges spill into the press, exposing bitter arguments, veiled threats, and whispers of a looming leadership challenge. Loyalty, once Starmer's shield, evaporates by the hour. He is isolated, cornered, exposed. Meanwhile, the Conservatives sharpen their knives. In fiery speeches, they brand the scandal as Labour's death blow. This is not mismanagement. One Tory MP roars in Parliament. This is corruption at the highest level. This is betrayal on a national scale, and it happened under Keir Starmer's watch. The words echo endlessly across television, radio, and social media. Rivals smell blood, and they will not waste their chance. For them, this is more than politics. It is an opportunity to bury Labour's credibility for years. The sheer scale of the fraud continues to horrify the public. £22 billion, enough to fund hospitals, schools, and vital services for years, has disappeared. Investigators describe a vast maze of shell firms, forged records and contracts granted to companies with no history or expertise. Some funds, they suggest, have already been traced to offshore accounts hidden behind layers of secrecy. Others may be lost forever. Each fresh detail is more staggering than the last. each revelation more damning. This is not merely a story of corruption, it is a story of greed that reached into the heart of government. And through it all, public anger intensifies. Protests swell in size and ferocity, shaking Britain's streets. Outside Parliament, chants demanding Starmer's resignation shake the air. Resign now echoes through the streets. The fury is no longer just about fraud, it is about betrayal. Millions of ordinary Britons feel deceived, abandoned by leaders who swore to protect them. The scandal is not abstract, it is deeply personal. Parents who cannot afford childcare, pensioners unable to heat their homes, patients stuck on endless hospital waiting lists all now believe they know where their money went, and they will not forget. The international community is watching. Headlines across Europe, the United States, and beyond report on the crisis consuming Britain. Allies voice concern over political stability. Investors whisper about pulling funds from a nation whose government looks steeped in corruption. Britain's reputation, painstakingly built as a model of democracy and fairness, is suddenly in jeopardy. The scandal is no longer a domestic affair, it is a global humiliation. Keir Starmer is trapped in a storm unlike any he has faced. History itself presses down on him. If he resigns, he may salvage a shred of dignity and give Labour a chance at renewal. If he clings to power, he risks dragging both his party and perhaps British democracy itself into deeper turmoil. The clock ticks, the pressure mounts, the choices shrink. The nation waits, breath held, to see what comes next. The fractures inside Labour have split wide open. What began as whispers has erupted into outright defiance. Senior figures once loyal to Starmer are edging away, issuing careful statements that hint at resignation without naming it. Behind closed doors, knives are drawn. MPs plot, party officials weigh the costs. Rivals quietly position themselves as successors in politics. Weakness is fatal, and Keir Starmer, once seen as steady and unshakable, now appears as a wounded leader awaiting the final strike. The evidence piles higher, and with it the scandal darkens further. Investigators link contracts directly to Labour insiders. Millions were funneled into firms existing only on paper. Empty offices, unreachable directors, offshore accounts surface in leaked documents, tracing public money into private hands across borders. It is a spider's web of fraud, vast, intricate, engineered to confuse and conceal. But piece by piece, the web unravels. Each revelation is another nail in Labour's coffin and in Starmer's hopes of survival. Public confidence has collapsed. Polls show trust in Labour plunging to historic lows. Even longtime defenders of Starmer now admit in private that the damage may be irreparable. In town halls and community meetings, voters speak with unfiltered rage, their anger raw, their betrayal personal. "We trusted you," one mother cries, clutching her child as cameras roll. "That money could have saved our schools, our hospitals, our futures, and you let it slip away." These voices carry more weight than any speech in Parliament. They are the heartbeat of a betrayed nation, growing louder by the day. Social media, once a tool for Labour to connect with supporters, has become a battlefield. Every post from party officials is drowned in comments demanding answers. Hashtags calling for resignation trend relentlessly. Not just across the UK, but globally. The scandal has become an international conversation, a symbol of broken politics and shattered trust. Videos of protests spread like wildfire, capturing thousands in the streets demanding accountability for the public. This is no longer about one man or one party. It is about the principle of leadership itself. Can power ever be trusted again when £22 billion can vanish so icily? Meanwhile, inside Downing Street, the Conservatives exploit every moment of Labour's turmoil. Emergency parliamentary sessions are dominated by fiery speeches, painting Labour as irredeemably corrupt. Tory MPs call for prosecutions, inquiries, and resignations. They cast themselves as guardians of accountability, defenders of public trust, even as critics note their own scandals. In politics, perception is everything, and right now Labour appears engulfed in corruption while the Conservatives loom above the wreckage. Labour grassroots activists, volunteers, and ordinary members are furious. Many feel abandoned, left defending a party that has betrayed its core values. Online forums and local meetings overflow with anger, despair, and demands for change. Some call for a full leadership purge, others go further, warning that the party may never recover unless decisive action is taken. For them, the choice is stark: sacrifice Starmer, or risk losing the faith of the nation forever. Through it all, Keir Starmer remains silent more often than he speaks. Advisors urge him to hold firm, to weather the storm. But with each passing day, pressure mounts, outrage intensifies. His authority drains like water through cracked glass. To the public, he seems less a leader in command and more a man clinging to a crumbling throne. Every hour that passes makes resignation feel less speculative and more inevitable. The scandal has already reshaped Britain's political landscape. The question now is whether it will destroy Labour entirely. Political scandals are not new, but few strike so deeply at the heart of public trust. £22 billion vanished, millions betrayed, a leader accused of remaining silent when truth was needed. The stage is set for a reckoning, one that could end Starmer's career, fracture Labour irreparably, and redefine the future of British politics.